So we now turn our attention to the Middle East, where we want to focus on the plight of Christians in countries like Iraq and Syria. And I'm joined by a man named Adnan Nasrallah, a Syrian national who had to leave the country for northern Cyprus because of the war. So Adnan, thank you very much for joining us today. First of all, I'd like to ask you what it was like for you in Syria during the war there.
Well, as a Syrian was really hard, and as a Christian was a harder. Because I came, as I say, from a Christian town, and my town was attacked during that war, and it was the time for me to leave again, because I lived most of my life in the U.S., and I went back to Syria in November 2011, right after the war started. And after my home was occupied and lost everything, lost our homes, lost whatever we have, was really hard. So I left the country because of the war.
And so your own town was attacked in Syria, and were you there when that happened, and what was that like?
Yes, on September 4th, 2013, about 6 o'clock in the morning, I noticed that there is something wrong in Malula, because I could hear the mosque from the other towns praying, but a morning pray. But in Malula, the two mosques, they did not do the morning pray. So I got up and I was walking out the balcony to take a look, see what's going on. And I saw a pickup drive, because my house is open and you could actually see whole Malula in it. And I saw a white pickup driving out of Malula, got by the arch where Syrian soldiers were stationed over there, and bang, all I see is a ball of fire. And the pressure was so strong, actually pushed me back a few feet. And then we start hearing all the screaming, Allahu Akbar, we liberated the capital of the crusade, we are coming with knives, and was really hard day for me and for my family. My two daughters, they never seen and experienced these things before. They lived in America most of their life. And was really hard 24 hours before we get a chance to escape Malula.
And so the town was captured for some time by jihadi forces?
Yes, was captured for twice, actually. Was attacked twice and was captured for more than 6 months. And at that time, after I left, we left Malula, my family went to Abu Dhabi and I went to Abu Dhabi, stayed there for a while. And when Malula was liberated by the Syrian army and his friends, I went back to Malula to be there with the people, to start rebuilding, to defend our homes, our village, our country. But it was still hard.
So a lot of people died in Malula?
We got 6 young men were kidnapped and killed. 6 people were killed in Malula, and the nuns were kidnapped in Malula. Because it did not happen, lots of killing, but not because not too many people stayed in Malula. Most of the people, they had a chance like 12 hours to leave. And that's the reason we didn't have too many killing.
And so for Christians in general in Syria, what is the current state of play? Are they safer than they were in those times 4 or 5 years ago?
Oh, different part of Syria. Like in northern Syria now, they're not safe at all. Damascus, Laodicea, the places were liberated by the Syrian army. Yes, they are very safe now.
And the war itself seems to be coming to a conclusion. Is that the case?
Well, the war on Syria is it's a very complicated war. Actually, you could say is a World War III against Syria. Uh, I don't know if you heard what Kissinger said about Syria. He said there is no way we could take over Syria by traditional military war unless we bomb Syria with nuclear bomb. But there is other way is to burn Syria from inside. So we could get rid of the Islamic was created by Hafiz al-Assad, is the moderate Islamic, the Islamic where is learning to accept other people and live together with other people in peace and harmony. And his other thing he said, we have to destroy anything that has to do with the Christian history and Christian civilization. So we could create the great state of Israel.
And so this is, in your view, a war being waged by Western powers?
Yes, this is part of it, was waged by the Zionists and their American friend, and then their puppets, the European and some Arab government, they just rode the waves.
And it seems as if it's generally accepted in the Western media that NATO and certain Gulf states had a big role in arming the jihadi rebels in Syria. And obviously they seem to have been unsuccessful, that the government has actually won back a lot of Syrian territory.
Well, yeah, you are supporting a bunch of terrorists. I mean, not you, the NATO and the Western. They supporting a bunch of terrorists. They came for a cause they know nothing about. They just came, actually, part of them for the money. And as the previous foreign affair, the Qatari foreign minister said, that's $138 billion was spent on the war in Syria to support the jihadis, well, actually the terrorists.
And so in Syria, if there is a section of society that's very radicalized, be they a minority, and if the other part of society wants to live in peace and harmony, how could the government go about rebuilding Syrian society after this conflict, in your view?
Well, will be a long, tough, like say a war, will be another war, but this war will be not carrying weapons, will be war against the radical ideology, the radical thinking, and this will take a long time. I don't know how much you know about Syria, but as you know, Syria is most small villages living in the countries. Most of them are uneducated. They listen to what their imam or what the sheikh tells them, and there is lots of these imams and sheikhs who are supported by the Wahhabis, and they are getting paid to carry the war against against Syria, and part of it they want to get rid of the president Bashar al-Assad because he's minority.
But Assad himself has been portrayed in the same light as people like Saddam Hussein and Gaddafi by the Western media. Obviously, overthrowing those men in Iraq and Libya has proved disastrous for those countries. Although there's an argument to make, those were not good men at all either. Is it your view that in the Middle East, strong-fisted leaders are needed in order to keep a lid on violence? Or is it possible that Middle Eastern countries could have democracies that function in the same way as they do in the West, with relative peacefulness?
Well, this would be really hard to establish that democracy, the Western democracy. You see, when I was in the US, I was very active, and I was invited one time to talk about the American policy and democracy in the Middle East by Rotary International. and seem to be like everybody thinks they want to bring democracy to the Middle East. But my question to them was, do you know anything about the culture in the Middle East? No, they don't. Do you know anything about the religions in the Middle East? No, they don't. Have you ever been with the people in the Middle East? No, they don't. But okay, how do you going to bring democracy to a culture you don't know anything about? How are you going to bring democracy to a culture most their beliefs does not meet with democracy? It's the opposite side of democracy. So this will be really hard to establish a Western democracy in the Middle East.
So sometimes interference is the worst option possible for NATO countries to adopt?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is the NATO and Western country, they don't learn from the past. I mean, there is where too many democratic countries, too many democratic elected government were overthrown by NATO and its member because they want dictators. They don't want a really democracy. And they did not spend that money on democracy, really. There is more democracy in Syria than there is in most Arab and Muslim worlds. You know, as I am a Christian, okay, I have the right to build a church. I have the right to celebrate my holidays. My wife does not have to wear the veil. I get the highest any education I want. I could have a government decision except being a president. There's 90% of Arab country Christian cannot do that, or minority cannot do that. So really, democracy has nothing to do with that war.
A lot of people will say that Assad and his father, who was once president of Syria, have committed war crimes and very egregious human rights abuses. Is that widely accepted among people who are supportive of the government, that Assad has often done wrong?
Well, you know, nobody is perfect. You always, the America or the Western media, they give you the wrong information. What Assad did is in the 80s, when the Muslim Brotherhoods, they start attacking civilians, putting bombs in buses, and then when they attacked a just graduate soldier came from Russia, finished their military study in Russia and came to Syria, and their leader is supposed to have a party for them, and he asked him to come to the meeting without any weapons, and he killed 75 people, 75 Syrian soldiers, and then escaped to Turkey. He's a Muslim Brotherhood, and the Muslim Brotherhood, they were kidnapping doctors, professors, like I said, killing innocent people. So what do I do as a president of a country? I just sit and watch this group of people killing, or I have to defend the country and defend the people? And this is what Hafez al-Assad did in 80s. Yes, Hafez al-Assad did attack the city of Hama because that's most Muslim Brotherhood terrorists were coming out of Hama. So really, he did not do war crime. He saved Syria, as Bashar al-Assad did saved Syria too. Bashar al-Assad, he gave freedom to Muslim Brotherhood and other religion parties. So he thought maybe I will bring democracy to Syria. But no, these people, they don't want a democracy. They want to take over Syria. So as a president of Syria, I have to defend my country. And if a Syrian asks Israel to come and attack me, I am sure I will be attacking that Syrian. I don't think the West will enjoy it to have a Western citizen demonstrating and asking Russia to come attack America or attack Paris or attack London.
Very good. Well, Adnan, we really appreciate the time you've taken to be with us, and we wish you and all your family and all the people from your hometown the very best in the future in Syria if you're able to return. Thank you.
Thank you very much.